Well, joining me now, Washington correspondent for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Tia Mitchell, and senior advisor to the Lincoln Project, Tara Setmayer. She's also a former GOP Congressional Communications Director. Welcome to you both. Tia, you're currently there in Georgia. What's your reaction to the record turnout despite the new voter suppression laws put in place by Governor Kemp?
So, Georgia voters are very energized in general. Georgia voters know there's a swing state. They know, especially on the Republican side, there are contested primaries. The voter law, the impact of the voter law will come after Election Day, and the test will be close races. The test will be if voters say, I was not able to cast the ballot because I needed a drop box, late at night, or, the line was long and I needed water and nobody could bring it to me. That is going to be the test of the election law. And it remains to be seen if there will be impact. But what Democrats have said is, why take that risk? Why change the law in ways that weren't needed, in ways that could affect people's ability to vote on Tuesday or any other day during the early voting period?
So, Tia, I want to stay with you on that point because it's Stacey Abrams' second time running for governor. Do you expect this to be yet another face-off between Governor Kemp and Stacey? And if so, how will this be different from 2018 showdown, especially given the increase in the number of people who turned out for early voting?
Yes, all indications are that this is going to be a rematch. There's a good chance that Governor Kemp will win the primary outright on Tuesday without the need for a runoff. Stacey Abrams doesn't have a primary challenger. And so a lot of things will be different. I think that Governor Kemp the difference is he has a record to run on as an incumbent. That's going to make it harder to beat him. But Stacey Abrams is different now. She's had 4 years where she has become a political rock star on the left. So she's a stronger candidate. In addition, over the past 4 years, the demographics of Georgia have continued to shift. Georgia has not only grown, but it's grown more diverse. And those are things that benefit Democrats. But again, we do have that new election law to contend with. Kemp versus Abrams in 2018 was very close. We would predict that it would be very close again in 2022. But demographics, the law, the candidates, and also, inflation will matter. The price at the gas pump will matter. President Biden's popularity and how involved he gets in the race. Those are all things that are going to be factors and going to make the race interesting to watch for the next several months.
Yeah, because all of those things are also going to have a real impact on turnout. So Tara, you got to love this, right? The latest poll has Kemp with a huge lead over David Perdue, Trump's avowed candidate. However, Trump hates Kemp. How could that be a factor in the battle between Abrams and Kemp?
So the interesting part about this is that not only is Brian Kemp absolutely dominating the primary, Donald Trump hates to lose and he hates to spend money. And both of those things are going to happen for him in Georgia. He spent $2 million. His PAC sent $2 million to Perdue, which is the largest, I believe, amount of money that his PAC has given to any candidate for nothing. He's going to lose. And the thing about this is that there's also not only the Kemp race, but there's also the Secretary of State race, which we should be paying close attention to with Brad Raffensperger, who is someone else that Trump despises, because it was Kemp and Raffensperger who bravely said, no, we're not going to find those 11,000 votes and make them up so you can win. They stopped the scheme. So they are at the center of the election fraud attempts by Donald Trump, and he's most likely going to be handed a huge loss there. And I think it's important for us to pay attention to that because it will be a harbinger about whether the political weaponization of the big lie is successful or not going into the fall. Because we can tell that Donald Trump and MAGA world is investing a lot in candidates who are focused on that aspect of it. This is part of the revenge tour. Will it be successful or not? Primaries are very different than general elections. So when you see Kemp against Stacey Abrams in the fall, I think the dynamic this year will be a little bit different because the presence of Donald Trump in these races is such a motivating factor that it may be a lot more competitive, and was competitive last time, but it could come down to the wire again in the fall for the Georgia governor's race.
Well, Tara, speaking of a dynamic, Georgia Senate race, U.S. Senate race, football legend and Republican candidate Herschel Walker, who, in my humble opinion, as a former county chairman, state chairman, and national chairman, is completely inexperienced for the job ahead of him. And yet, he's got Trump's endorsement, his stamp of approval. The MAGA world is all gaga for him. How does that shape up for you? How does that Senate race against Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock look to you?
This just gave Senator Warnock a much greater chance at winning re-election in November. He's been doing an excellent job as senator. He's very well respected in the state. And you compare him to an absolute degenerate like Herschel Walker. He is a degenerate, loser, liar, fraud, domestic abuser. OK, and this is someone who the Republican Party has backed as their Senate candidate. Shame on Mitch McConnell and everyone else who has put up with the sham that Herschel Walker is. What an embarrassment. Michael, you and I know that candidate recruitment was really, really important and something that the Republicans used to be prideful about. They used to have pride in this and about the quality of the candidate they put forth, especially for Senate. And you have this fool as your leader for the Senate race in Georgia. I mean, not only is he, a liar, he lied about graduating top of his class in Georgia. Well, you didn't need to do much research to find out that that was a lie. Let's be honest. He's also has a violent history against women, police officers. He's talked openly about, murderous thoughts. I mean, really? Not only that, it just came out recently in I believe it was an AP report that there's questions about his role in a veterans charity, which is something that he has used as a point of his biography and his resume as something that he's done, working with veterans. Well, there's questions about the role that he played there and whether they preyed on veterans and scammed the government. This is so on brand for Donald Trump and who he supports. So, you have a third-rate loser who's come back and now saying, spouting MAGA talking points, and now he's Trump's guy. Why are we surprised? But it's an embarrassment for the Republican Party.